G'day and welcome to the Gippsland Skills and Jobs Centre YouTube channel. My name's Jeremy and I'm a Pathways Advisor with the team. Today we're going to be looking at transferable and employability skill sets. This is one of 3 major workshops that we deliver, and it's a really important foundation so that you can work on the next 2 subjects, which are resume and application writing and interview technique. If you understand what transferable employability skill sets are and how to identify what you have, then you'll be much better placed to be able to write an effective application and also to be able to interview really well. So throughout this workshop, we're going to be looking at what transferable and employability skill sets are, how to identify what you have, and also how to communicate these effectively. So let's start off with what transferable and employability skill sets are. These are skill sets that you develop through work, through life, through education, basically through all your day-to-day experiences that can be transferred through different jobs. They're essentially skills that are universal to most workplaces. Some of these most common skills include communication, teamwork, listening, time management and organization, but it can also include things like customer service, positive attitude, problem solving, a willingness to learn. There are many, many more, but these are some of the really common skills and traits that are mentioned in job descriptions all across Australia. Why is it important to understand these skills? Well, essentially because every job needs them. Most companies are willing and able to teach you specifics of each individual job, but they haven't got the time to teach you the core things that we develop throughout our lives. It's important to be able to identify that you have these and communicate these effectively to your potential employer so that they can feel confident that they can hit the ground running with you and be able to just really focus on what's important specifically to their role rather than just wasting time reteaching you the basics. It saves them a lot of time. And ultimately, that's what we want to communicate to our potential employer, that we're going to make their life easier. The whole reason a job exists in the first place is because the company needs to fill either a particular need or to make just in general their lives easier in some way, shape or form. So if you can communicate that you can do this for them, you're always going to do so much better than those who are worried about what they're looking for or don't even try to communicate how they can improve the life of the potential employer. So you may be thinking something like, I've only ever worked in a cafe, or I've only been a stay-at-home mum, or I've just been a student all my life. Don't worry, there are still plenty of transferable skills, as we've already discussed some of the core ones that you will have developed throughout these experiences of your life. In particular, stay-at-home mums, you have a lot to transfer and a lot to offer. Your day-to-day life is essentially working 24/7 and you cover just about every aspect of life and employment, just not necessarily how you think about it. How do we try and identify these skills? Well, if you are a student, for example, you might think, I don't know what I can offer to an employer. Well, for one, you are ready to learn and able to learn and hopefully able to apply this learning that you've developed through your school. You might have strong communication or listening skills. You might have good time management skills to attend all your classes and manage to get everything done on time. Perhaps you have worked as part of a group on an assignment. Therefore, you've covered teamworking and communication as well and various other skill sets. We just have to think outside the square to understand how the skills that we have to offer are applied in our lives and then how we can use those in our future work. Again, a stay-at-home mum, to go back to that example, you've been a carer, you've been a communicator, you've been a coach, you've been a teacher, you've been a transporter, you've been a time manager, a coordinator, you've probably explained some difficult concepts, you've had to manage difficult circumstances, maybe conflicting priorities, maybe handled temper tantrums or emotional outbursts. You've had to communicate, you've had to do all kinds of things as a parent, and so you have all these skills that you can offer. It's just a matter of really thinking about what you do in your day-to-day life and then drawing out all those aspects to turn them into skills and transferable experiences. Another way to help you identify the skills that you have is not to ask, what skills do I have, but what have I actually done? Those experiences will help you draw out those skills and transferable experience. Think about, for example, your last job, or maybe the last class that you've been part of, or again, if you're a stay-at-home parent, think about even the last day or the last week that you have just been through, and consider, what tasks did you complete every day? Who did you communicate with and how? What problems did you solve? What responsibilities did you have? Did people rely on you? Did you train others? Did you improve a process? Did you work independently, or did you deal with customers perhaps? Once you list out what you've done throughout that week and all the responsibilities that you've had, you'll begin to notice that there are so many skills hiding within each of these tasks. For example, rather than I answered phones, which is still true, the reality becomes I communicated professionally or clearly and concisely with customers or individuals or colleagues and managed multiple inquiries. Rather than I stacked shelves, it might become I maintained stock levels, worked efficiently under deadlines, and I paid close attention to detail. Maybe it's something like I cleaned equipment. Well, that now becomes I maintained workplace hygiene standards and I followed workplace procedures. Now, to some of us, it might feel like we're just adding fluff, but it's not. We're actually expanding on the truths of the foundational aspects of what we do. We're actually expanding and deep diving into what we do so that we have more to draw out. It's kind of almost like when you might sell a car, for example. You're not going to sell it dirty because it's not going to represent it as best possible. You're going to clean the car first. You might vacuum out the interior. You might give the exterior at least a wash, if not polish and all the rest of it, because you want it to present it in its best light possible. So it's a bit of a weird analogy, I understand, but it's the same kind of concept. You need to understand what you have. Don't dumb it down. Bring it out, draw it out, expand on what you have, because you'll start realizing you have so much more to offer. So write down a list of all of these skills, all these experiences, and all the transferable goodness that you have to offer. And once you've got this massive list, start trying to match your skills to the jobs that you're interested in. For example, if you are applying for, say, a retail job, particularly they're going to be looking for customer service, they're going to be looking for communication, interpersonal, handling difficult situations, maybe emotional people or emotional outbursts. You might have to work to tight deadlines. That's some examples of stuff that you can bring out from your day-to-day life, from all these skills from the list that we've created, to then gear towards your application towards these needs. You've now identified that you have all these traits and skills and experiences, so now you just have to list them out and be able to approach the job application appropriately. Some of these aspects will be particularly involved when we get to the actual application writing stage, but it's still good to understand the types of skills and foundations, maybe even write down some examples from how you've used these and maybe how they could be transferred to a similar situational need at another employer or in an employment situation. So that when it comes time to writing your actual application or even interviewing, if you've gotten to that stage, you'll be able to draw out all of this information clearly and quickly and be able to explain it concisely to the person on the other end. It's really worth remembering that employers are not hiring only based on experience. They're hiring on potential. Many employers understand that applicants have not done exactly the same things that they're looking for. So this is why the transferableness of your skills and experience, the ability to understand the principles and apply the knowledge that you have to those principles is really important. They're asking themselves, can this person learn? Will they fit in with our team? Can I trust them? Will they turn up on time? Will they represent our business professionally? And that is one I really need people to understand. You are going to be representing a business. So how you present yourself, how you carry yourself is really, really important. I know some people, especially for those who are starting out, may not necessarily have understood how important this aspect is. You are going to represent the company in some way, shape or form, whether it's to other people within the team, to other companies, to directly to customers. you will represent the team and the company. So you need to be able to show and demonstrate that you can do so appropriately. They also are going to be asking, do you have the right attitude? Everything else can be learnt, but if you don't have the right attitude, if you're not willing to learn and apply what you've learnt, the rest of it is not going to go so well. So make sure you have the right attitude. Be positive. Be willing to learn. Even if you maybe don't know something, that's fine. You can always learn, research, grow, all of that. So just demonstrate a positive attitude and an ability to apply learning effectively. It's definitely not uncommon that potential applicants or a couple of applicants might be being considered, and one might on paper have more experience. They might have a stronger application, but after talking to them, to both parties, the employer sees a better attitude in the employee or potential employee with less experience, and then they end up being successful because they have the better attitude. So do really take that into consideration. Before we finish, I have a few practical tips that I want to cover. One is, don't underestimate your experience. Even if you've never worked for an employer, whether you've ever had voluntary or paid work, does not matter. Any experience is something that you can draw skills from. Whether it's being part of a club, whether it's being part of a school group, even caring for family members. Maybe you have been fortunate enough to be employed previously, or maybe you volunteered somewhere. Maybe you've done some placement. Whatever it is, there is always something that you can draw from for experience. So please don't underestimate what you've gone through in your life. Similarly, you need to think about what you've done and not just the job title. While the job title is important, if you can't explain to me what that job entails, it's not going to go so well. So think about all the different tasks you've done, because that's where you actually can draw from the experiences and transferability. That's the key part. Point 3 that I want to talk about is making sure that you can come up with examples. It's not necessarily that you need to have the examples ready right now for every part of the application writing, but it's good to have some in the back of your mind so that you can draw on them when you get to the interview stage, but also for your actual application writing. If you have some examples, you might be able to explain them in briefly to demonstrate that you have these skills. One of the things that most people make a mistake of when they write their application is they claim something, and usually they'll say known for, or highly experienced or demonstrated skill in something. But then they don't actually demonstrate that, or they don't give an example. So if you have some examples that you can actually produce for people, that will qualify what you're claiming. So just try and keep some examples in mind. Point 4 is to tailor your application to suit each job. Now, this is a little bit different. This is more getting into application writing, but we already discussed this. Group your skills, group your attributes, your experiences to suit different types of industry or different types of jobs. What someone is looking for in a retail role, for example, will be different to what someone is looking for in a labouring role. There are going to be overlapping skills, absolutely, but there will be others that are fairly unique to each industry, although still common skills that you can learn from many different ways. So try and understand those skill sets, those requirements, and start grouping them together so that you can tailor your application including experiences, tailor your application to suit the job and really bring out your strengths to suit it and address it effectively. And finally, point 5 is keep learning. There is never a reason to not keep learning. And we do learn through so many different avenues. It doesn't have to be formal training, although that is always a wonderful way to do it. It can be informal. It can be things like listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos. And it can be reading, of course, trying things or attempting new things in day-to-day life. Maybe you have decided that you want to work on your communication skills, for example. Well, maybe you can then push yourself to talk to more people. Practice that and getting engaged with people to have a bit of a deeper conversation. Or even if you're, for example, like I was for a long time and still am to some degree, a bit nervous in talking to people that I don't know, well, that's where you can maybe push yourself out of your comfort zone. Maybe do it in a safe environment, like in a club or in a social group that is aligned with your interests so that you're more likely to connect. But maybe it's your school, your colleagues or fellow students at school, or maybe it's some colleagues at work, whatever it might be. Just try and engage with them. Maybe try and engage with a customer if you're working in a little bit different way. Maybe get to know them just a little bit more. Ask them some questions about their life. Whatever it might be, always be willing to learn. Learning is key to improvement, and every employer wants to see someone willing to learn. They love that. So if you can demonstrate that in any way, shape or form, that's going to be always a plus to you. So employability and transferable skills can really open doors that you may not have realized were available to you. Remember, employability skills and qualities can help you succeed in any workplace. Transferable skills are abilities you've developed that can be applied across different jobs and industries. Well, that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you found the information within it useful. I really encourage you to work on understanding your transferable and employability skill sets. They are really, really important and going to help you make sure that you're a really strong candidate. If you are in the Gippsland region in particular, the Gippsland region of Victoria, Australia, and would like some extra one-on-one support, please go to the Skills and Jobs Centre website, which I'll link in the description of this video below. Click on that link and fill out your details in the e-form and submit them. And someone from our team will be in contact with you as soon as possible to arrange an appointment with you and go on to do one-on-one support. However, if you don't feel like doing the one-on-one support, please check back for future videos. We're going to be covering a lot more as we go on. And feel free to comment and ask questions, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. Either way, whatever avenue you choose to seek help, whether it's from us or someone else that can provide similar support, please make sure that you do seek that help. It's such a waste of resources out there if you don't make the most of it, because there are so many people out there willing and ready to help you, and it's just going to help you make your applications so much stronger. So please don't be afraid to reach out for help. Alrighty, well, thank you again for watching. Good luck with your future applications, and we hope to see you again soon in another video. Bye.